It's so great to see you again and to hear about what's going on at Delta Airlines. The message you've been putting out to investors and the public is Delta is back. Tell us what's changed.
Delta's not only back, Delta's better than ever before. I'd say one of the most important things that we've changed, Susie, is the focus on wellness. And so the cleanliness of our product and our service is far better than ever before. We learned a lot about the pandemic and the vulnerabilities we had. A lot of new people. We had 20,000 people that retired during the pandemic. They decided they wanted to move on or save jobs for younger people. So we have 25,000 new people just in the last year and a half that have come into the company. So it brings a lot of new diversity. It's younger, maybe a little bit more modern. We added a lot of new airports. LaGuardia opened up this year. LAX has opened up this year. The two biggest markets in our country, the two finest airports, I would dare say. We've got new technology, we've got new planes. So there's a lot of new that's come that we took advantage during the pandemic. The pandemic, we didn't sit still and wait for people to come back. We figured this was our moment to move, and we did.
You have said that you see no signs of a slowdown and that you expect these final months of this year to end strong. Is the recovery in travel steeper than what you expected?
It's come back faster than we expected. We were anticipating that it may take up to next summer, 23, back 2 years ago. It's come back faster. And I think what's happened is as soon as consumers felt confident that they wanted to go, they just wanted to go places. And it didn't matter where they were going, didn't matter how much they were paying, they just need to get out of their homes. Because they have people to see, experiences to engage in, and opportunities that they didn't want to lose and have taken away from them.
Well, the other thing that we've noticed is that airfares have gone up. I mean, to what extent would you describe your ability to raise fares and not getting any pushback from consumers? Because Thanksgiving flights now, the ticket fares are kind of high, and the same for Christmas flights.
Well, it's not that we've been trying to raise fares. I mean, of course, fares have to be at a sustainable level. The demand is so strong. It's pushing the fares up. Because if we try to somehow bring our fare levels back to the 2019 levels, we'd be out of inventory for the next 6 months. And you can't do that for consumers. So it's really a true supply and demand. It's an auction every day that happens on our flights because we have limited availability. Second thing is fuel prices. Fuel prices are up 50% above where they were 2019. So part of that is normal. So our goal is by the summer of next year, we'll be 100% back. So that means we're going to add about 15% more flights between now and the summer. That will help take some of the pressure off the fares.
For right now, though, how do you factor in some of the financial issues that a lot of people are struggling with? You mentioned fuel prices. Well, consumers are dealing with high food prices and fuel prices. I mean, what are you doing that you don't get consumer belt tightening that would impact Delta's business?
Well, what we've seen is consumers during the pandemic were not spending on airfares. They were not spending on service, the service economy. They were buying stuff. You know, everybody knows all those packages that would arrive every day in the boxes at the doorstep. They were buying things and stuff. Consumers now are not buying as much from the traditional retail channel or maybe Amazon, but they are investing that same amount of money. So they're funding their travel. They're not necessarily increasing the spend they have, but they're moving back to a more traditional, normalized level of service spend. I think our consumers are just fine, candidly. They're not seeing a kind of a pinch with respect to where they want to spend their travel, their money on travel. But of course we watch it like everybody does. But for the next several months, we don't see any cracks in that.
What can you tell us about business travel?
Business travel is strong. I don't think business travel is necessarily ever going to be back to what it was. I think it's going to be different. I think that probably 70 to 80% will be similar. And by the way, that's kind of where we're at. We're about 80% recovered in terms of overall investment on business travel. But what we've also seen is that there's a whole new ways in which people travel. You know, people aren't in the office, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 anymore. And these new tools of Zoom and other video conferences are actually giving people the ability to take their office with them when they travel. So they're turning it into long weekends. They're working for different places. People are commuting actually from the mountains into their office where they only have to be maybe a few times a month. It's a whole new type of travel. So when we look at travel broadly, I'm not as focused on, is it business, is it corporate, is it leisure, is it hybrid? All I know is our planes are full.
So you see this momentum continuing into 2023?
No question. This is unique, primarily because businesses they haven't gotten back to their 100% level of volume of travel. So they've saved a lot of money on travel over the last few years. This is not something going into a potential recession where businesses could say, okay, we're gonna, because it's the easiest thing to cut, this discretionary, say, okay, we're not gonna, they need to be out with their customers. They need to be out with their colleagues. They need to be out looking for more sales. And what I tell every CEO that I see, because we're all traveling, we're all very busy right now, is that if you're not traveling, someone else is traveling to see your customers. So you better get back out. And so everyone I know from that standpoint. So I think this would be a different type of recession in which actually saving on travel is not going to do much. If anything, it's going to hurt the business. I see people and businesses pushing people to get out to generate the sales and the activity and the initiatives, which is very different than anything we've seen in the past.
Well, I'd like to hear your take on a recession that just about everybody is predicting is going to be coming right around the corner. You've been through many recessions. How do you see this one playing out?
I think there will be some industries that will be challenged. I mean, we all saw what happened to real estate during the pandemic. It went crazy. I think you're going to see with mortgage rates rising and other things, I think you're going to see real estate coming down. I think you're going to see consumer pulling back when they start realizing how much their mortgage bills. A lot of business individuals, by the way, are in fixed rates, so they're not going to see necessarily the full effect of it, and they're going to be insulated a bit from that. But I think you also see some businesses gaining strength. I mean, for us, candidly, our biggest cost that we've incurred during the pandemic is what's happening to fuel. Fuel prices are up 50% since 2019. If there is a recession, it's likely that fuel prices are going to come down because there'll be less demand. That will be a benefit to the travel economy. So I think this is going to be a little different, Susie. I don't know, by the way, I don't know anybody that's forecasting a long, prolonged, difficult recession. Most people are saying, okay, we may have one. It may last a year, maybe 18 months. But fundamentally, the economy in the US is pretty strong. And the need to keep moving, the travel sector, is pretty high.
Let me follow up on this short versus long recession, because we're getting predictions all over the map from economic experts and from CEOs like yourself. Some saying it'll be short and quick and gone, and others saying this could go on for years.
I see nothing that indicates it's going to be long, drawn out. Consumers are flush with cash. I think businesses, depending on your sector, you may have a prolonged effect. Our business, I don't see it happening. I see people wanting to continue to travel. One thing about travel is once you start traveling again, like, wow, I really missed it. We took it for granted pre-pandemic. People weren't taking it for granted the same way. And so by the way, there's still a whole group of customers that haven't even yet been out to start traveling because they did see the crazy summer that the airlines had as we were trying to get everything back up. And they said, well, we're just going to sit this summer out. But they're going now this fall. They're going next spring, and they're already booking their plans. So I'm a bull on this.
A more immediate issue for Delta right now is contract negotiations with the airlines. Pilots, they're asking for more pay, and they voted to authorize a potential strike if the union can't reach a deal. Where do things stand?
We'll get a deal done. There's no risk of a strike. We're in mediated negotiations currently with our pilots. Our pilots already are the best paid in the industry. And they should be, because they're the best pilots in the industry, and we pride ourselves on that. We're talking about how high is high, and so the next contract, they will continue to be the best paid pilots in the industry. There are many, many phases to go before a mediator or a presidential emergency board could ever even release them legally to strike. So there's no risk of that happening.
So you're not preparing in any way just in case?
There's no just in case. We're going to get a deal done. They want to get a deal done. We want to get a deal done. There's a lot of rhetoric out there, but usually when there's smoke, there's fire. When there's rhetoric, that means something's happening.
You sound very upbeat. Looking at next year at this time, what will you be saying about 2023 and how the year played out?
We're doing well. We're having record revenues, even though we're only flying 85% of our capability. So as we continue to grow into next year, and I think the demand's still going to be pretty strong, I think next year is going to shape up to be a very good year for the airline. It's going to help us with respect to overall cost and productivity, but also giving that to the customers, because we have a lot of customers, a lot of loyal customers that can't get on our flights. They're either full, they find it too pricey, they want to be with us, and they're saying, what can you do? the thing we can do is grow, and that's what we're going to do by summer.
The last time you and I talked, it was about a year ago, and we still didn't have vaccines. I mean, people were just beginning to get them. You were dealing with a lot of health and safety issues, still a lot of disruptions. It wasn't as good as how you're talking about things today. As you look back on that time, what would you say is the biggest, most important leadership lesson that you learned through all that?
Well, to stay optimistic. I never lost doubt we were going to get through this. It's easy to doubt what it's going to look like. But I never doubted that we'd come out the other side and we would take the learnings as we went to improve the business. I think there's humility. It's not just bullish optimism. We all learned that there's something about the world and the environment and world order that is bigger than you. That's always going around about you. And our industry, we've been through challenges before, whether it's 9/11 or recessions or other issues. Well, none of us had ever seen anything like this, where you went from best year ever we had in 2019 to 30 days later, 5% of your revenues. And what do you do? And by the way, no idea when they were going to return. So it's humbling. And we got to retain that humility and that appreciation for what we've been through with each other to build an even better airline on the other side of it.
In a crisis, people always look to the CEO to have all the answers and to say how things are going to be in the future. And, the COVID pandemic, there were so many unknowns, and many of the CEOs I've talked to said that you just had to learn to get comfortable to say, I don't know. I don't have the answer. How was it for you?
As CEOs, we're paid to have answers. And we're paid, and you tell people you don't know. And by the way, there's a way to say I don't know, right? I mean, there's a way to say I don't know and just spark more anxiety, or tell people where you're at and let them know how you're thinking about this and pull followership along. And that's what I tried to do.
So Ed, you've been through a lot these last couple of years. What leadership insight did you get from this whole pandemic experience? And how is it shaping the way you're leading Delta now?
Well, it's changed me. It's changed our entire team. It's changed our business model. Focus on wellness, focus on health, focus on taking care of each other is never more important than ever. We're a people business. We're an airline, but we're fundamentally our people, and our people are our best assets. And they're doing a better job taking care of them, thinking about their emotional needs and their financial needs, as well as their physical needs through this period of time, is going to allow our business to come through this better than ever.